Thank you very much for your patience. Moving right along to the next session in our program. I'm happy to have with me here today Mike Butcher, the editor of TechCrunch Europe. That means for all of you startups, hopefuls, you guys can get some serious coverage here today. And we're going to have a little chat about what's going on in the European startup space. We're going to try to get his slides up on the projector as soon as possible. But until then, I'll ask him a quick question, which is, Mike, how do you find Beirut so far?
Well, first of all, let me just say, marhaba. It's really great to see you, and it's a delight and an honor and a pleasure. And let me say thank you very much to Omar for inviting me. I actually I saw this conference from afar last year on Twitter and Facebook, and I watched it on the web a little bit, and I was really annoyed with myself because I really wanted to come, but I couldn't do it because of my schedule. But I'm really delighted to be here. My impression of Beirut in Lebanon is fantastic. It's a wonderful city you have here, and I'm really looking forward to meeting everybody here from other parts of GCC and MENA, and I'm going around doing some interviews with my video camera. Get your startup pitch ready. Come and pitch me. That's what I'm here for, to come and meet you guys. One thing I need to say, though, is I just run out of business cards all the time. So if I don't have a business card, I apologize. I'm sorry, but I just get a lot of requests. But I'm happy to take your business card and email you back. But let me just say what I think is very interesting. I've been watching the conference and watching the panels so far, and what I think is an impression I'm getting is there is a huge amount of activity in this region, and for obvious reasons, and a fantastic new upswelling of interest in, shall we say, even a revolutionary upswelling of interest in enterprise and entrepreneurs and startups. And one thing that I am very keen on as I go around Europe reporting for TechCrunch on startups is not to say, everybody, don't worry about Silicon Valley, forget about Silicon Valley, forget about valleys. What we need here in this region and across Europe are bridges, building bridges between each other and between markets. And I think that's the most exciting thing going on in this part of the world right now.
Excellent. Well, thank you for coming, for being here. So what I really wanted to ask about is what's going on in Europe. We talked a little bit earlier about what's going on in emerging markets, and Europe is.
Can we get slides?
Yeah, I think we're working on the slides.
Yeah.
Europe is. There's a lot of things going on in Europe, and I know that you're a big promoter of Europe as a hub for entrepreneurship. Specifically, actually, London is a big hub for entrepreneurship in Europe.
Well, I think that the thing is that we're obviously incredibly spread out. I've been listening to the panels here while you guys have been here, and you have the same in the MENA and the GCC regions. You have the same kinds of issues that we have in Western Europe, I guess, which are we're just spread out. So in trying to create innovation clusters is harder because, you know, to get to people, you have to drive, you have to get on a plane or whatever. So the speed of innovation is a little bit hampered by the distance. So we have to be smarter, we have to be clever. And the one thing, I guess, that has emerged in the last couple of years is that if you concentrate on clustering with other companies similar to your space, so other startups clustering, say, I don't know if I'd love to hear from anyone here if perhaps maybe some of the technology startups are clustering in one part of Beirut or something like that. That's the kind of thing that can really drive in innovation. And what we're finding in London is that things have started to get faster the more companies cluster. First of all, cluster in one part of London, and where I can mention that if I can get my slides up and just tell you a little bit about that. And the second thing is people come to London to do deals. In Europe, a lot of the venture capital is coming out of London. Limited partners who back venture capital funds are predominantly based in London because it's a very big financial centre. And of course, it has deep ties with the Middle East, of course, as well, financial ties. But the venture capital funds are there, and also a lot of the angel networks. And it's kind of like a place to do deals. Like if you remember back in the day, if you were a cowboy, you know, you're out on the plains and you're roaming around, and when you want to go and do deals and you want to sort of sell your cows or sell your herd, you rock into town and hitch up your horse and go into the saloon bar. Well, that's kind of how London works. It's where to do deals, where to find venture capital, and to meet other entrepreneurs. And I will, for instance, I'll be in Berlin and meet people and say, you know, I'll be in Berlin next week. Let's do lunch. And people will say, well, I'm not going to be in Berlin next week. I'll be in London because it's just such a hub. But having said that, the main issue here is not necessarily to to big up that, just to say that it's a useful mechanism for finding other entrepreneurs, finding venture capital, and using it as a base in the whole of the European and Middle East region. Yeah. Okay, everybody. So this is just a very, very quick presentation about what some of the trends are in Europe. These are all my details here. This is the site, my email, my Twitter, my LinkedIn, my Facebook. As I said, I don't carry loads and loads of cards, so just want to write that down. Feel free to email me your pitch, your slides, your introduction, say hi. I get 500 emails a day, but I'll do my best to reply. So what do I point it at? This? Do.
Oh, it's just working.
Just move. Point at my head. How about that? How about if we do it manually? Switch. Okay.
There we go.
That worked. Okay, so European startup trends. So I think there are a couple of things interesting. They're going early stage. They're investing at an earlier stage. I think in common with some of the presentations we heard earlier, there's not a bubble, I would say, because it's a private market, but it's still very interesting what's going on. There's a lot of startups coming through. So early stage is now an increasing focus for some VCs. And also growth capital. So growth capital, investing in startups that already have traction, they're already booking revenues, they already have users. So European startup accelerators. So we heard from 500 Oasis, we heard from other guys like that who are building these accelerators. And that's also a new theme that's happened in the last 3 years. Groupon clones, private sales, so social shopping, social e-commerce is a massive trend going on right now. And I think also in the business-to-business and enterprise space, there are a lot of problems that corporates have had in the last couple of years. Large corporate entities, large corporate ICT companies have a real problem innovating now because of the recession, because of tough economic times. And so now they're looking for innovation companies to buy, to acquire, to do M&A with in order to get that kind of innovation back into their organizations. So enterprise is quite an important space. Reshma Sohoni from Seed Camp, who was on a panel here, Seed Camp's an investor in Erpli, which is a company coming out of Estonia, and they're solving a lot of these kinds of enterprise e-commerce problems. There's another one called trend, which is startups focusing on culture. Now, in Europe and the Middle East, and we have fantastic culture, don't we? It's awesome. We have fantastic culture. And you know what? This is actually a real advantage. Art, music, culture, fashion is an incredible part of our rich cultural heritage. And now we are seeing startups focused on that. And I'll mention something about that in a second. Mobile innovation, huge growth in Android. So now it's an app world. It's all about applications now. The application stores have solved the problem of trying to find applications and put them on your phone that the mobile web really didn't solve. So application stores are now a huge focus. Android's going to be a massive part of that, obviously. The iPhone is a huge growth area, of course, as well. The jury is out on how Microsoft and Nokia are going to perform in the future. They have another 18 months to 2 years to get this right as a result of their recent deal. So we're going to have to see how that goes with Symbian. But it's clear that now that Windows Phone is the platform for the future for Nokia. And lastly, launching on big platforms. And now we've seen this a lot in London, is that, I guess because of the English language, UK startups are able to leverage US platforms very easily. So you can build a platform, build a startup on a US platform like Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn very, very easily, very, very quickly, and get social scale very quickly because you use that platform to get users. And, okay, so to go back to it, VCs, a lot of it's concentrated in London, London, Paris, Berlin, yes. This is a concentration of capital, but the pan-European investments usually come out of London, largely because it's a massive financial center. Accelerators, not incubators. The incubator model is kind of over. It's now about finding the startups and then incubating, then clustering them together, rather than clustering, then incubating. I think there's going to be a massive fallout from social shopping, oh, sorry, I'll keep going. No, keep going. I'm going too slowly. No, not at all. There's going to be a massive fallout. Social shopping there's going to be some failures in the Groupon space in Europe. I'm not so sure about here. I'm here to learn from you guys about how that's going, but the social shopping is going to be a huge, huge competitive environment. I said earlier, Market Invoice, Earply, enterprise is a big focus, financial technology. And I said before, so culture. So now we have things like Artfinder, who are trying to create a massive database of the world's art, coming out of London. Garms from Austria, who recently moved to London, trying to solve problems in the fashion field. Fashion is a huge industry, and fashion is actually quite an old industry, which still has huge problems, which startups can innovate around. And another one called Songkick. We know that the music industry has had huge problems because of file sharing, but the live music industry is incredibly valuable. I know that I was watching TV last night in the hotel, flicking through all the fantastic music channels you have here. And now live music is still a massive issue. Then, of course, mobile, as I said, Nokia is shifting its strategy to the US. That's kind of a shame for us here in Europe, but it also makes things a little bit more interesting in the sense that we have access to these app stores. And lastly, as I said, using platforms like Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, these platforms to launch your startup and get users very quickly. So very, very quickly, I'm just going to run through some of the European accelerator programs. And see that these are some of the key ones here. In London, you have White Bear Yard, which is 3 angels getting together with about 10,000 square feet of space. Hack Forward, which came out of Lars Hinrich, who exited from Zing.com. They're creating a kind of a hacker engineer program. C-Camp, Reshma, here was earlier, and Tech Hub, which is a new one, which I'm an advisor to, which I'll tell you about. So you have so C-Camp, very, very, I don't know what to point this at. That?
I think it's over there. So
is it this? Pow! C-Camp. It has to be like Fonzie. Launched 2007, European first, VC and Angels network, 500 mentors. And mentorship is really, really important. When you're trying to build a startup ecosystem, you really need experienced people to come in and go, look, no, you're doing it wrong. This is how you need to get going. So entrepreneurs really need to build a network of mentors around them. They have multiple events. These are the kinds of levels of investment that they take. And that this is a European level, of course. And they have a lot of intensive mentoring. Very, very mentor-focused. I think it's that way. And lots of panels. There's Mike Arrington on the right there, Jeff Clavier, Chris Sacca, Dave McClure, and lots and lots of sort of intensive workshopping. Then there's Hack Forward. They do these. This is how their model works. They take quite a lot of the company, but they fund the company for a year. And they're very engineer-focused, very intensely hackerish, as it were. They do a lot of conferences, and they invest quite a lot, but that's to last quite a long time. And they do a lot of sessions. They get together and have fun, etc. And then there's White Bear Yard, 3 European angels. They don't have a kind of a formal network, but they are investing in these companies in a kind of incubator-style way. And this is kind of what it looks like. So very, very sort of all about clustering. And then there's something which I'm involved in, which is kind of a fun new thing. It's kind of a place where you can lay your hat as an entrepreneur if you're visiting London. It's called Tech Hub, and it's drop-in co-working, free coffee, free Wi-Fi, 100 megabits a second Wi-Fi, and all about entrepreneurs, startups, and developers. Backed by Google, Pearson, and now Telefonica. You just join for that for $615 for the year, and when you're in London, you come and hang out with us and work on your startup, or work on your startup, do deals, and then go back to wherever you're from, whatever country you're from. And it's based in this clustering thing. I think is really important. It's something I really want to encourage you guys to think about, is clustering your companies and your innovation sectors in particular places. This particular one, they call it Silicon Roundabout, which is kind of just a fun name, but it's taken on, you know, typical British joke, as it were. There's Elizabeth Varley, the co-founder and CEO, Jimmy Wales from Wikipedia, that's the kind of thing that they do. They have events, etc. And there's others in Europe, Le Camping, Springboard, all of these things. So everybody's really getting intensely interested in early stage startups, doing startup weekends, doing hack days, these kinds of things. And it's creating a real acceleration. So I'd really encourage you to check these guys out, build bridges, make connections, and come and see us. Okay. So would anybody like to ask any questions? Yes. Put your hand up. Let's hear it.
Thank you for the nice talk. So my question is, all of these are European-based venture capitalists. So do you think they are really interested in investing in the Middle East? And do you advise as entrepreneurs to try to target everyone, like Middle East, Europe, US, or we should maybe focus more on targeting Middle East-based VCs? Thank you.
Is this, you're talking about targeting Middle East-based VCs for investment or a Middle Eastern market?
No, for investors.
For investment. Well, I think you've got to go with where you're strongest. But one of the failures of European entrepreneurs sometimes is that they look too much in their home market. So if you're an entrepreneur in Berlin, you only go to, you know, German VCs. Well, you know what? Get on a plane, right? Get on a plane, go and get term sheets from other investors. If you've got a good story to tell, if you've got a great pitch, you've got a great team, there's no real reason why you should necessarily be limited. Of course, some VCs will invest only regionally. So there are some VCs in London, in the UK, who'll only invest in UK startups. But there are still angel networks and some VCs who will invest in other countries as well. And I think it's about finding those guys, finding them, sending them a pitch deck, trying to get a meeting through a network. And it's always good to get introductions to these people from people that they trust. It's harder if you just send something to them via just email or cold call them. But I think in the Valley, for instance, in Silicon Valley, an entrepreneur will go to will go down to Sand Hill Road and they will go and get as many term sheets as they can get. And I think European and Middle East and North African entrepreneurs should think that way as well. They should always look for as many term sheets that they can get.
Hey, my name is David, newstale.com. I think he gave us an interesting snapshot.
Hold the mic up right.
Oh, hey, can you hear me? Yeah. So I think he gave us a really interesting snapshot of the European and the non-American startup scene. Can you give us a kind of an idea of the progression from when TechCrunch Europe was started, for example, until today? I think that would be interesting to know because we might be somewhere where Europe was 2 years ago, and it would give us a good idea of what it's going to be like in the future in the next 2 years.
Well, I think that's a really good question. When I started working with Mike Arrington on TechCrunch in 2007, it was quite hard to find the scene. Were there any startups in Europe? It was quite early stage. I think that as programs have started, like Seed Camp, like Hat Forward, like some of these other kinds of a lot of the time entrepreneur-led programs, that's made things bubble up. Entrepreneurs on their own right, and there's also events and conferences that have started to get going. That sort of really helped. And I think that you guys, you're still kind of on the journey, as it were, and it's fascinating that ArabNet and Omar and his team have concentrated quite a lot of the program on the startup sector, because to me that's a great sign of real great things to come. But European entrepreneurs still have lots to learn as well. And you've got to remember, of course, a lot of the time that I'm talking to entrepreneurs who are pitching to me in their second language. So I have to take account of that. I have to make allowances for that. But very often you get fantastic businesses and fantastic startups from just about anywhere in the UMEA region because there's amazing talent out there. It's just a matter of getting in front of the people who can expose it, getting in front of the media, etc. And having events like this, which I think is a great sign of things really going well. So I would encourage, keep going. Don't just have one annual conference. I'm sure Omar has lots of plans for lots more events, but do lots of other things as well. Get out there. Come and visit us in London as well. Maybe let's do a kind of a day at Tech Hub for Arab startups. Should we do that? Yeah? Yeah. So let's...
I'm on it.
Come, yeah, we'll talk to Omar. We'll get you guys over. We'll do a showcase day or something like that.
Can I get a show of hands from VCs who will help me fund it?
Yeah, come on. Put your hands in the pockets, guys.
Yes, thank you. I know.
Excellent, thank you. So
Awesome.
It's just about getting going because there's a lot of work to be done. Any other questions? Put your hand up.
One more question.
One over there. Yeah, one over there.
There.
Hi, my name is Abdullah Absi. My question is, when do you think is the right time for startups to submit their startup to TechCrunch.com?
Good question. There's never a wrong or a right time. I have actually a whole speech I can give about this subject, but my short answer is that the best thing to do is start a conversation. The time and again I get an email from an entrepreneur who says, Mike, we just launched 5 minutes ago. Hooray! And I'm like, well, why didn't you give me some warning? Because if you gave me some warning, then I can look at the site or I can work out what you do, work out if we're actually going to write about you, that sort of thing. So start a conversation. Don't get downhearted if you don't get a reply. You can send an email to me, Mike Butcher at TechCrunch.com. You can send an email to our team, tips at TechCrunch.com as well. The best thing to do is start a conversation. Just say literally one sentence. We're doing this. We're going to kill YouTube for this reason. Bye. So and then we'll start a conversation, and that might turn into something that ends up being a good post. But the best thing is to do, don't hide away, don't be quiet, don't work away and then launch and then expect everyone to cover you. It's better to start the conversation, I think.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
So I think everyone's ready for lunch, or yes? Okay, great. So let's break for lunch, and we'll be back. I know, guys. I think we have to break for lunch. Yes, the program. Tonight we have a bunch of activities tonight planned for fun times. We're doing an evening of live music and activities with Solidaire, which are our evening activities partner. There are going to be 2 local indie bands who are going to be playing, and we're going to have lots of food and drinks and a DJ. So make sure to plug that into your program, and we look forward to seeing you tonight. And I really do think we have to break for lunch. I think people are going to be too tired for this. So let's get back into the hall at 3 p.m. Okay, please, everybody. I'm gonna remove the food at 2:40, so everyone can be back here.